Working with drywall can be difficult without the right techniques. To secure this cutout, we'll add a bit of furring strip to the inside, then add spackling to the edges. Press the cutout into the spackling, and then drill in a couple more screws. Finally, we'll add a coat of spackling to smooth everything out. If you need to get a spring around a screw, try using some spare wire. To join these two edges together, we'll be making a single rabbet joint. Cut the rabbet out using a table saw like so, and then add some finish nails into both sides. Check out that support. Our next quick project is to make a bellows, also known as an air blower. We'll simply hot glue some plastic tubing through the top of this bottle. Now we can blow away any dust and debris. Having difficulty picking up tiny washers? Let's make a quick pair of tweezers. Cut a hacksaw blade in half at a sharp angle and set a small washer in between the two blades. Tighten with a bolt and we're good to go. Now let's make some DIY furniture feet. Fill some hot glue around this bolt inside of a mold. Now add a nut onto the bolt. We can secure the feet to the bottom of the furniture by tightening on another nut. If you plan to replace your floor with tile, we recommend using a tile suction cup. It makes applying underlayment and placing the tile so much easier. How do we cut this irregular shape? Drill a hole into a thin piece of scrap wood and place a marker inside. Now we can trace it on the board and everything lines up. Next, we'll be making a compass for drawing circles. We want it to be large and heavy duty so we can use it for our woodworking and construction projects. We'll start by gluing two pieces of plywood together and marking a dot in the center of each end. Then we'll draw two circles around each dot, one slightly larger than the other. Next, we'll draw three lines, one connecting the two dots and two connecting the outer edge of each circle like so. Then we'll cut out the shape using a jigsaw. Next, we'll sand the edge using a belt sander. Drill holes into each dot using the thickness of the bolt as a reference. Then we'll split the two pieces apart, give them a light sanding, and brush them with a varnish. This will keep the wood from warping. Now, install a bolt, washer, and a wing nut. We'll install a pencil into one end and then hot glue a tack into the other end. Adjust accordingly to make the correct size circle. Every workshop could use some more storage space. Here's a neat way to make some extra hidden shelves. Simply screw a single slat onto a 2x2 and then screw that to the bottom side of a wooden shelf. Now we can store all of our things in this plastic tub. And when we're done, we'll hang the plastic tub up like so. Next, we'll be making a nutcracker with a really interesting design. Start by cutting out two circles of wood, where one is about twice as large as the other. Next, we'll drill 3 equidistant holes in each circle, then cut 3 equal-sized pieces of rebar and grind down the edges. Hammer the circles into the rebar. Now drop a walnut inside and twist. For our next project, we'll be making a manual airbrush. We'll start by cutting this 1/2-inch aluminum tubing to about 8 inches in length. Then we'll cut this 1/4-inch aluminum tubing to 2 inches. Hammer one end flat and drill a hole into the top. Now we'll connect the two tubes by adding some hot glue inside and around the hole. Then place the 1/2-inch tube inside. Now add more glue around the outside to make sure it's completely sealed. Next, we'll drill 2 holes into the lid on opposite sides, one large and one small. We'll need a thin plastic tube, so we can use the inside of this pen. Place our aluminum tubes into the larger hole on the lid and seal it with glue. Do the same with the plastic tube into the smaller hole. It should look something like this. Now we'll add some support using this metal bracket and some screws. Place the bracket underneath the tubes and mount it to the lid using screws. Now we'll add more hot glue connecting the bracket to the tubes. Remove the lid and fill the jar with paint. Dilute the paint with water and stir it up. Tighten the lid back on, and now we've made ourselves a manual airbrush. For our last project, we'll be making salt and pepper shakers. We want to saw off 4-inch blocks from this 2x2 piece of scrap wood. Next, we'll trace a line from corner to corner to mark the center. We'll attach a 1.5-inch drill bit into our drill press and then drill a hole that goes almost all the way through the block. Next, we'll draw a circle in the center of the opposite side, then mark the dots for the holes to pour out the salt and pepper. You can make as many as you like and in any design that suits you. Next, we'll drill out the holes that we marked. As you can see, our holes pass through the wood. Lastly, we'll make the stopper. We'll use calipers to measure the hole and find a dowel that matches the size. Cut out the circles about 1/2 inch thick and place them into the bottom of the shakers. Now we'll give our shakers a light sanding. Then we'll brush on a coat of varnish on all sides. After the varnish dries, fill the salt shakers with salt and pepper. We'll share all of this and more today on Workshop Insider. We'll cut out the damaged part of this vinyl floor and a new piece to match. Then glue the new piece down so that it's flush. We can use a broken screw as an anchor to another screw. Sometimes we need our bolts to be a bit more secure so no one can unscrew them. In this case, we'll use blind rivets. Now they're not so easy to remove. Our vinyl floor is a bit loose here. We can drill a hole in the vinyl floor and fill it with wood glue. Now we'll cover the hole by melting a crayon and then shaving it flat. To securely pack fragile items, we'll need to place our item between 2 layers of spray foam and plastic wrap like so. Our item is ready to ship. We can also repackage the item like so for multiple shipments. Leave a brush in the paint bucket and it'll start to sink. We can mark out a little notch and then remove it using a handsaw. Now the brush will hang on the rim of the paint bucket. Putting duct tape on wood before cutting will keep the wood from splintering. Use a utility knife to cut the duct tape in the shape that you need. Now we'll cut along the edge with a jigsaw. And our wood has not splintered. We can even use a plastic straw to anchor this screw. Drilling into drywall can create a lot of dust. We can use this plastic bottle as a shield to collect the dust. Now when we drill, any dust falls into the cap. How can we prevent this marker from constantly rolling? Simply add a zip tie to the end. Water that's left on the ends of these shovels will cause the metal to rust. We can prevent that by filling a bucket with sand and motor oil. Now if we set our shovels inside the sand after working, the oil will prevent them from rusting. Sometimes the clamping pressure and too much wood glue causes the boards to slide. We can use a bit of salt to keep the boards from sliding. We'll learn how to make our own dowels in this next project. Start by cutting out 2 quarter circles. One needs a hole about the size of the dowels, and the second needs a large hole. Attach the boards to a stud like so, with the router in between. Now we can pass the square dowel through and round it to size. The mortise and tenon joint is one of the strongest joints that we can make to secure these 2 pieces together. We'll start by making the mortise. We'll mark the exact center and then use our mortise router, making multiple passes to cut it out cleanly. Next, we'll make the tenon. We want to make sure that it fits snug, so we'll never cut past our marks. We can remove most of the wood using our table saw, cutting the sides and the bottom. It should come out like this. We'll remove the rest of the wood using a chisel and sandpaper. Now our pieces fit nicely together, snug, and everything lines up. Our last project for this video will be a handcrafted curtain holder, made out of this log and the extra piece of scrap wood. We'll start by drilling a hole into the center of the log and cutting out a large hole in the center using a hole saw drill bit. Then we'll cut off a round about 1 inch thick. We'll want to sand off the bark of our circle piece, and also sand off the edges of our straight piece. We'll end up with 2 pieces that look like this. We'll apply varnish to both pieces and let them dry. Pass the curtain through the circle piece and then lock it in place